You routinely check your phone even before your first cup of coffee is finished. And already you can expect a few client messages. Maybe a team member needs approval on something that you thought they ought to be able to handle themselves, and possibly a deadline all of a sudden shifted without any warning or signs that there was going to be some challenges or changes made. But the main thing is that this has happened before your day has even really started yet. And when something like that comes up, it's easy to just make the assumption that, oh, that's because we're in tax season. It's already busy. There's volume, there's more complexity, and that there's, of course, more pressure at this time of year. This is Loren Fogelman with Business Success Solution. And busy season, however, does not create these problems. Let me say that again. Busy season does not create these problems. Rather, busy season, because of the extra pressures and demands, exposes where your firm is already overly dependent on you as a firm owner. So once again, it exposes where your firm is already overly dependent on you as a firm owner. And the main thing is that there's signs where there's overdependence on you. That might be in preparing tax returns, maybe in support work that's doing the bookkeeping, or possibly some of the year-round services that you offer. But there are signs as to where the dependence actually shows up. And busy season, once again, more pressure across the board. And as the pressure builds and intensifies, that's where your firm needs more stability, not where it starts to crack under pressure. So, as you know, a firm is so able to look successful on the surface, but still feel like it's exposed underneath. And tax season is where it makes it so impossible to start ignoring some of this exposure. So consider this. Volume creates a very convincing illusion of stability. Full calendars feel like you're in charge and in control. And constant activity feels like there's momentum. And when you're responsive to things on a very quick turnaround, it feels like leadership. Because with all these things, the work feels like it's moving forward. But once again, busyness can be a cover-up for some underlying issues. And that is because we're looking at you being the spoke in the wheel. So as things start to ramp up, it takes more and more of a toll on you. There's more demands on you. And just consider, if for some reason you decided to step back during tax season for 30 days, I don't want you to think about what would keep the work moving forward, but what would keep the decisions moving forward inside your firm. How would the decisions be handled? And that is the things to consider. So think about these decisions that you get pulled into. Maybe something is unclear and you're the one that they come to clarify it. Or something is late, so you're stepping in because you want to be able to keep things moving forward and not have any backlog or meet a particular deadline. Or possibly something just feels off and you intervene to prevent a bigger issue from reaching a client. So those are all the places where you might get pulled into things on a daily basis, and it just accumulates over time. So I know you do this because you care. You want the work done correctly. You want your clients to be protected so that they have a really optimal experience working with your firm. You are client-centered. No question about that whatsoever. But when this is happening and you're being pulled into all these decisions, it creates that bottleneck. And as a result of that, that's where things start to get piled up until they can get your particular attention. So what we want to look at is firms that are able to scale, grow, get rid of the bottleneck. They realize that decisions need to be made even when the principal is not available. So when you do that, then you're able to have higher revenue, you have higher profit margins, and your business no longer feels fragile because of the fact that there's so much lying on your shoulders. And that's what we want to look at, is how to be able to change this so that you're no longer that spoke in the wheel, creating that's the last word as far as decisions moving forward, or the person that everybody is going to first. I don't want you being that first responder. And this is where I have what's called a stability transfer framework. And it starts to make the hidden visible. So now you have an option as to whether you want to address it now, address it later, or it's good enough, you feel okay with how things are set up. But once you have that awareness, then you can actually make an informed decision. So there are 3 places where stability lives, and this affects the structure of your firm, and a lot of it rests on you personally as the firm owner. So the very first one has to do with pricing. This is where pricing might be based on effort, time, forms, maybe risk, and it all kind of falls on your shoulder that you feel that you're the one that needs to be doing the pricing in your firm. And that is how a lot of firms are, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And as work expands, maybe there's more complexity, you might actually even absorb the impact through longer hours, maybe tighter capacity, or constant judgment calls. But that isn't necessarily in your best interest or the firm's best interest. So value pricing, we're getting away from looking at the workflow, how long something takes, how many forms you're being used, or which forms. It is looking at how to price differently. This accounts for, now value pricing counts for exposure, vulnerability, expertise, and also it's creating higher margins than the typical pricing strategy has. So instead of having very slim margins, you're now having larger margins, which means that there's a little bit more wiggle room. So a question here for you to consider is, when work expands, who absorbs the impact right now? Is it you or is it the firm? So that's the very first thing to look at as far as the stability transfer framework, is the pricing piece and how you're coming up with those fees. The second one, decision ownership. This is where things escalate, and the default is that team members check in. They want to help have your input before making a decision on how to move forward. Maybe questions move upward because it feels safer that way for a team member to check in with you and get your approval, or have you tell them what to do. Then it feels for them to make that decision on their own, taking some of the risks that maybe they made a right decision, maybe they made a one that you wouldn't be something that you agree with. But this means that when you're the final say-so regarding decisions, everything lands on your desk. You already have a really busy desk. We don't want to add anything else to it. So stable firms, they're more intentional in their decision framework. They define which decisions belong to the team and which ones require owner judgment. This is where they have a certain procedure in place, and they know how to be able to train the team to make certain decisions on their own, which is great because now it develops critical thinking skills in their team members, which adds value, and which ones need to be made by the firm owner. So think about last week. How many decisions maybe reached your desk that you believe could have been made by somebody else? They didn't require your expertise. And think about how each one of those times where a decision came to you that you felt was something that could have been handled by your team, how much time that's taking. And that accumulates over a period of weeks, months, and it has a very real impact on the firm as well as your workload. The third thing in the decision stability framework is stability. And maybe it's instability. It's about workplace design and workload design. So when urgency dictates the day, and sometimes that happens during tax season, there might be a lot of fires, there's a lot of urgency. People get really, really freaked out when they held off on doing things, and now they want to dump it on you, and they want it done by the deadline. Anyway, all those things where everybody needs your services in one contained period of time, it affects your team's capacity. And as a result of that, boundaries actually start to soften under pressure, and possibly that the work expands without it intentionally meaning to. So as a result of that, workload management needs to be intentional. This includes maybe clarity about scope, delivery process, deadlines, and also expectations that can be maintained even when things get busy. So think about, how does that happen, where maybe there's a rule in place, a deadline, but for certain clients, you may be a little bit more relaxed about that. You're not following through. There's not a clear boundary. Sometimes you stick with the deadline, sometimes you don't. So once again, that's something to think about. So the decision stability framework has three things. Look at your pricing. Is it based on input and hours, or is it based on value delivered? The second thing is, who owns the decision? Is it your team, or is it you as the firm owner? And the third one is stability. Is there boundaries, and are they maintained? Or is it that sometimes the boundaries are followed through and sometimes they aren't? So it's a little bit less clear for people. Anyway, all these things, once again, is about having intentionality. And as a result of that, it's going to be able to help with scope, delivery, and once again, maintaining expectations consistently from start to finish. So ask yourself, is the workload because of reaction, or is it by design? And systems in place where everybody is on the same page and they know what to own and where they need to have some input. And this is what is possible for you when you start to make this shift. I'm talking about Shannon. She is a firm owner, tax firm in California, and she really looked on the outside very, very stable as far as her firm. She's been around for a long time. She has a great reputation. She's busy during tax season. She has loyal clients, steady work, and she follows through on what she promises. But tax season, everything in some way depended on her. She was the reviewer. So a lot of the final decisions landed on her desk. And because of that, that meant that some decisions were escalated to a next level when they didn't need to be. The other thing is that when we first met, her pricing was based on forms and complexity and maybe a little bit of judgment. It wasn't based on value. And as the pressure increased, she wanted to keep things moving forward. It was so much faster for her to just intervene and give a quick answer or do it herself than to be able to take some additional time and train someone else or put it back on someone else's pile. So at that point, tax season, she dreaded having the phone ring. And she wasn't even answering her own phone, but she dreaded having the phone ring. And it wasn't because she didn't value her clients, but it's because she just didn't have the capacity. Can you relate to this? There's times when, of course, your client's sent it, but you don't want to talk to your clients because you're just stretched really, really thin. There's only so many minutes available, and you're already working too many hours in a week. So the firm, it felt stable because Shannon was absorbing the risk. And that change, that was something that needed to change because she wanted more stability in the firm. She wanted something that was sustainable. So what we did is we changed her pricing, and we had it focus more on complexity and expertise than on the forms, the time, or the workflow. Decisions, they now had a very certain process. So her team knew when they could make a decision themselves and when it needed to be escalated, and that would be appropriate. Client expectations were clarified through packaged services that had very, very clear defined deliverables. So the result was that a lot of decisions that originally landed on Shannon's desk no longer were waiting for her. Scope creep wasn't going to be an issue any longer. And as a result of that, her pricing also was higher margins, which meant that tax season was going to be more profitable. Anyway, the impact, it became noticeable for her. She enrolled 2 clients into her gold level business tax package now that she had defined packages. And just those 2 engagements of those higher quality clients actually replaced the revenue from 27 of her tax only 1040 clients. So once again, 2 gold level business clients that enrolled into that gold tax package replaced the revenue from 27 tax only clients. And that is what's possible for you. Because of that, tax season actually became calmer. The people around her, her team, they noticed she wasn't as frazzled. And the other thing is that she also now set things up to get prepaid instead of invoicing. Because of that, she was saving so many hours not chasing money or trying to calculate invoices because everything was prepaid. And now, because it's a lot more manageable, she no longer cringes when the phone rings because she's not relying solely on value in order to make her business work. And that structure can change your tax experience too. So she realized that quality clients, they value clarity. The structure reduces friction. And as a result, calm delivery improved all the way around. Inside the firm, her team was calmer, she was calmer, and as a result, her clients were calmer also. Now, let's be clear, Shannon, when she made this transition, yes, she did lose a couple clients. However, the ones who did stay were the ones who were aligned with her value. She no longer felt the need to negotiate because she was terrified of losing a client. And that was a real awakening for her. And now her firm also had capacity for growth. So tax season gives you clues that are very, very, very easy to overlook. And it's what you do with that information that determines, it might not change this year, but it determines how you have your next tax year experience. So do you want your firm to continue with things as usual, where it is a sprint and everybody is exhausted and stressed out by the end of the season? Or do you want it to be where something sustainable, it has flow, it has where there's a decision tree, and also not everything lands on your desk any longer, where you become the bottleneck. So think about that question. If you were to take your foot off the gas and not be available for 30 days, who would be making the decisions in your firm, or how would they be handled? So there are bottlenecks. Busy season exposes them. And it gives you something where you can make changes so the next tax season has a different experience. Pay attention, look at where the work stalls, where scope maybe quietly starts to expand, and where decisions, they default to you because it's so much easier than someone else putting in the effort and the time to figure it out themselves. And once again, I know you're busy. You are not expected to fix it all right now. Just start to become aware of the patterns. And then after that, choose one stability shift that you want to make. Is it around pricing? Is it around decisions? Is it around something else in expectations? So where is it that you want to make that change in your firm? And that one decision is where you can start to make an impact. And that small impact that you have right now can be maybe the foundation for exponential growth or a change in the whole experience, even this tax season. So clarify that. Is it a boundary that you want to reinforce? Is it that you want to be able to have your team be more critical thinkers where they're making decisions themselves? Is it that maybe you want to change some of your pricing so that you are more profitable and that you're working with higher quality clients? Anyway, if you want to talk further about how you can make those changes this tax season and definitely have it impact next tax season too, then realize that your firm does not need your constant presence in order to function. Let's go ahead and talk about how to be able to do that. We will look at where you can have more stability in your firm, be able to improve the structure, and also how to give you some immediate relief. If that appeals to you, how to be able to increase your revenues while reducing your workload at the same time, then reach out. Let's have a dedicated conversation. You can go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk to be able to get that started. And realize tax season, it reveals the weakness, the weak spots in your firm and where it might be too dependent on you. What you do with that insight determines how you're going to have your next tax season. Anyway, let me know what resonated with you, what it validated, what you plan on doing to be able to make this tax season and definitely next tax season a better experience. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for the connection. This is Loren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to be able to double their revenue working half the time.